Hi, Dr. Scott.
Hello, can you hear and see me okay?
I sure can.
Okay, perfect.
I am probably going to not use my video. I don't know, I may.
Okay,
But I will introduce and make you spotlight your video, make you the host, the co-host, and then hopefully that will go off well and we will get started.
okay, awesome. I'm not sharing my screen, so we should be okay.
Okay. You don't need to share. You don't.
No, just gonna be a discussion.
Cool. Do you want me to spotlight you or does it matter?
That's fine. Yeah, you can spotlight me.
All right. Let's see. Speaker view. Okay. There we go. All right, I'll go off video and mute.
Do you know how have these been going the full hour?
I don't know. This is my first one.
Okay,
I'm thinking the same thing. I'm not really sure. I think it's just however long your presentation is.
okay.
It's all yours.
Okay, I'll give it a few minutes. Are you, oh, okay. No, I can see as well.
Yeah, this is spotlighting you.
Okay, perfect.
And I think I will, I'll wait a couple minutes after 6 and then go ahead and get started.
Okay. Actually, I might pull up something just in case.
Let me go back to this view and play here. I'm not used to doing it this way, so I don't really know. What's the speaker starters? Co-host. Okay. I don't know how to make you the co-host. Let's see. Oh. All right. You are the co-host now.
Hello. It is 6 o'clock. I'm gonna give it about a minute or so. Well, I'll wait for my host to come back.
I'm here. You just tell me when you want to get started and I will do my announcements and then we'll get going.
Okay, I'll give it about a minute or so in case anyone is having trouble logging on.
Want to go ahead and get started? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it will be really interactive and personalized. So I'm going to go ahead and do my spiel here and then turn it over and let you guys start having your discussion. So good evening. Thanks for joining us. Tonight we have Dr. April Scott, and she'll be discussing student burnout. First, I want to start with a few announcements about NAMI Mid-Carolina. Right now, our support groups are still taking place online. We have a family and friends group that meet on Tuesday at 6, a parent support group that meets at the same time. This is a new group for parents of school-age kids. We now parents are having, we know parents are having a very difficult time right now, especially if your child is doing school virtually. So we also have a connections group for people living with a mental health condition on Tuesday at noon. All the groups last about an hour and a half, and all the links can be found on the homepage of our website, which is namicanhelp.org. We also have a book club that meets every month on the third Wednesday at 6, and we will be starting a writing club in June that will meet on the 10th at 6. Again, you can find all this on the website at namicanhelp.org. And last but not least, our NAMI walks will take place on Saturday, May 22nd. The walk's virtual this year, so you can participate in any fun way you want to. But we'll also have a drive-through event at Segra Park from 10 to 12. So you can ride through and pick up your shirts and get information from some of our sponsors. So with all that being said, I'd now like to turn it over, the program over to Dr. April Scott. I'll let her introduce herself and talk about student burnout. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand. I'll be monitoring that.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is April Scott, Dr. April Scott. I am a psychologist, therapist, whichever title you choose to use. So my background is in psychology and mental health specifically. I work at the University of South Carolina as well as the Associate Director of Mental Health Initiatives, where I talk a lot about mental health and ways that we can take care of our mental health on a daily basis, really focusing on the prevention side, suicide prevention as well as just really trying to reduce the stigma associated with mental health conditions. So I'm excited to talk about burnout because I think this is something many people can relate to, whether or not you are a student. So I think the topics or the content of the discussion can apply to anyone who's ever just felt burned out. So if you have any questions, as stated earlier, please feel free to drop it in the chat or just come on the microphone, because this is a pretty small group of us. And I do want to have a conversation base. So I didn't prepare a PowerPoint because I'm pretty sure a lot of us are just tired of staring at a screen. So feel free to engage as you can. So let's start with just a definition of burnout. Burnout is actually recognized by the World Health Organization, which lets you know how common it is. So the World Health Organization defines it as a syndrome that results from chronic work-related stress. The symptoms are characterized by feelings of energy depletion, so fatigue, increased mental distance from one's job, so maybe cynicism, or feelings of negativity from one's job. And then as a result, you kind of there's a reduction in your productivity because you have these negative feelings for your job. When it comes to an academic setting, you can characterize burnout as very similar. It happens when students face ongoing stress or frustration with very little time to relax, very little time to recharge, usually mental and emotional exhaustion that's caused by a combination of very high expectations and persistent stress. So you can see how the context or the things that kind of create burnout can exist both in a work setting as well as in an academic setting. So I like to kind of do a little game of, if you can, hopefully you're not driving, but if you can, just hold up 5 fingers and drop a finger when you can relate to a symptom of burnout. So let's say we'll say the last 9 months. If you have experienced any of the following, drop a finger. You felt exhausted no matter how much sleep you get. You are lacking motivation to attend classes, go to meetings, or even just start projects. Lashing out at others because of increased irritability because you're frustrated. You feel like you're lacking inspiration and creativity to bring your projects to fruition. You've lost confidence in your academic or your professional abilities. Incapability to meet important deadlines. So you've missed some deadlines. Increased pain or tension in your body. And that includes headaches. And then lastly, increased illnesses or frequency of illness due to stress and exhaustion. So we're in good company, right? Excuse me, there's something in my throat. We are in good company. So chances are these are symptoms of burnout, and we endorsed quite a few, right? So what do you think contributes to burnout? And I want to hear from you. Again, type it in the chat or come on the microphone. What do you think? How do we get here? What do you think are some of the things that contribute to us having all of this just exhaustion and we're tired and overwhelmed?
Well, COVA is one thing.
Absolutely. So burnout is an issue regardless, like because again, I said the World Health Organization even acknowledges that this is it contributes to negative health outcomes for people. So it's been around for a while, but then you tack on something like COVID or a pandemic, that just makes everything, it amplifies things so much more. So one thing, just say in non-COVID or pre-COVID, some of the contributors to burnout was lack of control. So feeling like you weren't in control of anything, like you had very little power or say so in what was going on, a dysfunctional work or school setting. So I'm sure some of us have been in those type of places where you feel like no one knows what they're doing. It is constant chaos. Yes, working from home, no separation from work and home. So those boundaries get blurred, which is another contributor to burnout, is really poor boundaries, not having that really good work-life. I call it work-life harmony or work-life integration, because I don't think work-life balance exists, because work-life balance suggests that there's going to be equal, and that's not how life or work works. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's there. I think the goal is that the same thing is not always being sacrificed. So there may be certain days where work is weighing a little heavier, and there may be certain days where life takes priority, but it's finding that integration, that harmony is important. And that can be very difficult to do in a pandemic when you're trying to do a video call and your kids are in the background, or your pet needs your attention right now and it waited until you got on the call to try to get your attention, or your house is a mess and you're like, oh gosh, I forgot to turn off. Like, it's just all of these things that are going on. Other contributors to burnout is overcommitting yourself, also known as poor time management. This also bleeds into the boundaries. So the overcommitted, this happens for all my people who love to help and love to show up, and we are natural leaders. We don't know how to say no. So we agree to everything. We see something is struggling, no one has signed up, and we go, I'll do it, put me on the list. And then before you know it, it's like, uh-oh. I joke with my friends that sometimes Monday, April will make plans for Friday, April, without really taking consideration what Friday, April may feel like. So at the beginning of the week, I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do it. I can do it. And then the day comes like, why did I agree to all of these things? So overcommitting yourself is a contributor to burnout. Lack of support. So if you don't have someone who can pick up the slack, whether that's in work or a classroom setting, that is going to lead to feeling exhausted, and lack of coping skills, and those everyday coping skills. Because again, burnout happens over time. You don't just wake up, you don't have a bad week and you're burned out. Burnout is a consistent, it's a chronic level of stress. You've just been like pushing through, and then you hit that wall. And so one of the ways of managing burnout is knowing when your levels are off. So I call it a checkup from the neck up. How often do you check in with yourself and say, how am I feeling? What's my energy level right now? Where's your cup? So I like to use the metaphor of a cup. So we tend to, on our best days, we start off, we'll pretend that this is full. We start off with a full cup. And as we go throughout the day, everything we do, it pours out a little bit. Whether it's checking an email, going to class, we have an exam, you have a report due, you have to cook, you have to talk to someone, you pour out a little bit each time. So by the end of the day, your cup is pretty low. If you're not doing something on a regular basis to pour back in, you're going to bed on E and you wake up on E. There's no hurt. So if you're continuously doing that, you're going to be exhausted. Your body is going to stop one day. So one way of managing burnout is check in with your cup and say, okay, wait a minute, where's my cup right now? Particularly before you agree to do something. So when someone asks you or make a request, whether that's, can you sign up for this organization? Can you come to this event? Check your cup. Analyze, where's my cup? Do I have enough water left in me to give into this? And if you're not sure, one of my favorite strategies is say, can I get back to you? That way you're not impulsively agreeing, especially if you're a people pleaser, especially if you have a hard time saying no. Just say, can I get back to you? Let me check my calendar. I know sometimes people use their spouse as an excuse. Let me check with my spouse. Let me check my kids' calendar. Whatever you need to do, just say, can I get back with you? And also, when I mentioned about support, being able to find your support and know who are the support systems. So whether that's, if you are a student, check in to see what services are available to you that can help you with time management. Oftentimes it may be in the career center or a student success center, but there may be an office where people are skilled to teach you these skills. And that's an important thing, is to know what you're not good at. Doesn't mean that you're a bad person, but we all have strengths and weaknesses. And if you're realizing that time management is a big contributor to your burnout, you may can benefit from working with someone who's really good at it. So knowing your resources is important. Another way to find that support is to ask for it. This is something that I've had to work on over the years, is asking for help, because I was superwoman with the big S on her chest. I took pride in being able to do it on my own. I even joke now, when I have to take groceries into the house, I'm doing it in one trip. I don't care if I break my forearm. I am carrying every single bag on my own. But I would get a sense of satisfaction from being able to do it all by myself, being that person that people could depend on, whether it was in school setting or work setting, that it didn't matter how many things I had on my plate, I'm going to get everything done. And I would do it by myself. Nope, I'm not going to ask for help. I don't need any help. I got it. Until one day, one week in particular, I didn't have it. And thankfully, one of my supervisors took me to the side and he said, "You're not okay. You're doing too much. And I am forbidding you from saying yes to anything for the rest of the month." And I was a little like, what do you mean? But it was life-changing because I felt like I had freedom to tell people no. And it felt so much lighter. I realized that I had overcommitted myself and hadn't realized because I was just so used to going. So that goes back to being comfortable telling people no, but also asking for help. So being able to say, I need help with this, being able to delegate tasks when needed. And when it comes to asking for help, you also have to be okay with imperfect help, meaning they may not do it like you. You may say, "Hey, can you do the dishes?" And they may load the dishwasher. You're like, why would you? Hey, do you want the dishes done or do you want them done your way? So being able to kind of let go some of that control piece and allow people to help you. So imperfect help, meaning you get the help that you need, you get the break that you need, even if it doesn't look exactly like you thought it would. Being able to focus on the outcome and also being able to enjoy the help. Because if you're critiquing the help the entire time, it's not giving you the benefit of being able to breathe. And then having a regular plan for self-care. So I like to think about self-care on a daily and a weekly and a monthly basis. There are certain things you can do every day that can be considered self-care. And the way I define self-care is restorative. So things that pour back into your cup. And I know people have their own definitions of self-care, but I like to look at it as a way it should be restorative. Like I heard someone say, making up your bed is self-care. For me, it's not. I hate making my bed up. It's a chore. I know I'm supposed to because I'm an adult, but I don't enjoy it. I do it because my mom always says it makes the room look better. And I don't need her like sensing in her spirit all the way from Alabama that I'm still not making my bed. But for someone who enjoys having a very neat bed, that may be self-care. So what are some things that you can do on a daily basis that protects your mental health? So for students, I always say, what's your sleep like? Because this is a big area with college students or just students in general, is really poor sleep habits. And this can happen to adults as well. So for me, my goal is to end my night at 10 o'clock. So hopefully I try to get in bed by 10 or 10:30. Because I have learned that if I'm not asleep by 11, I'm a different person. I can't function off of anything less than 7 hours, or not well. I can function. You're just not going to get the best version of me. So one of the ways that I take care of myself every day is I make sure that I try to end my night around the same time. And even if I'm not asleep, I'm cutting off connection with other people. I'm not online. Like you can't reach me unless it got to be somebody who gave birth to me or contributed to. Is the only person I'm talking to after 10. And it better be good because my dad is good to call me to ask me something about how to do something online because he's on a different time zone. He forgets that I'm an hour ahead. So, and that goes back to boundaries. But for me, my nighttime routine is my self-care. I make sure that I'm eating because sometimes you can get so busy where you forget that you haven't eaten in a while. Anytime I feel my mood shifting, I always ask myself, April, are you hungry or are you sleepy? Because I'm kind of like a toddler in that way. When I'm hungry or sleepy, I'm not myself. So usually I try to ask those basic questions. Like, when's the last time you've eaten anything? Did you get enough sleep the night before? And then what are some weekly things you can do on a self-care basis? So maybe not every day, but maybe once a week, you can offer this to yourself. I love farmers market because I am an extrovert. So I love just being around people. I don't have to talk to anyone, but I just love seeing all the dogs and all of the different food vendors. I love walking outside. That's my self-care. I try to, go take a walk somewhere. I may go to the river walk. I may go I would say sesquicentennial, but no, because I got lost my first time in the park because I thought I could figure it out on my own. Another lesson. But any type of outdoor, I try to get that movement in. So that's something I encourage you to do, and others who may watch this later, is one way to manage, first to prevent burnout. That's one way, but also when you start to feel burnout, how can you lighten your load? How can you pour into yourself a little bit more? So if you are in a space of burnout, you need to step up that self-care. So maybe if you were doing self-care maybe once or twice a week, you may need to go up to 3 or 4 times a week because you're in a deficit state. So you need to pour into yourself a little bit more. And again, the key to avoiding getting to burnout is know your warning signs. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a lot going on. I had said yes to a bunch of things. I just piled my schedule with things. And I felt a little voice in my head say, okay, April, you got one more yes in you before you run smack dab into that wall. So use it wisely. And so what that was telling me is like, okay, you're starting, if you keep at this pace, you're going to run out soon. So just kind of take it easy and make sure you use that yes wisely. But I'm glad I listened, because some years ago, old April would have just been robot. Like, I got it, I can do it. So being able to pay attention. And one way I noticed that I needed that voices speaking to me is because I could feel my mood start to change. I felt I could feel myself getting impatient, and I'm usually very patient with people, but I found myself getting annoyed by the smallest, like a friend would text me and I would look at my phone and just go, ugh. It's like, well, wait a minute, April, are you mad because someone asked how you were doing? I said, okay, you need to check in. So knowing your warning signs, like I call them like your dashboard lights on your car, and how it gives you that notice that like, okay, you got about this many miles before E. I'm curious for you, do you know your warning signs? Are you able to tell when you're getting to E? You're not there, but it's like, okay, we're getting close.
I think sometimes, I don't know that I have signals, but sometimes my brain will definitely tell me that, in about a week, things are gonna go down. It's gonna go south.
Yeah.
And I don't always know that I'm associating it with other things going on, but if the stress level just continues at that same level, then I tend to realize it's coming.
Yeah. And that's important. Go ahead, Ula.
I just feel like I'm running out of steam.
Yeah. That's a good sign.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah. When you no longer enjoy it, especially it's something that you knew you once did, that is a huge sign that you're getting to that burnout spot. So with that, trying to have regular check-ins with yourself. So, and that may be journaling for some, journaling at the end, like, how are you feeling? What do you need right now? Where are you proud of? You can find great journal prompts on Pinterest. My favorite just prompts to fill in the blank is I feel, I need, I celebrate, I am proud of, and it gives you just kind of a time to reflect on your days, particularly that I need. Because many of us, especially if you're the helper type, we often become so focused on everyone else's needs that we don't really ask ourselves, what do I need right now? Particularly if someone can help with something. There's this fear many people have that they don't want to be a burden to others. Well, they have stuff going on, I don't want to bother them. And I always say, just let them tell you that. Let's not be psychics. Let's not be mind readers out there. Give your friends the opportunity to be honest with you and let them tell you that they're busy. Doesn't mean the friendship is gone. A no should not ruin a friendship or relationship. But sometimes we talk ourselves out of getting help because we're like, oh, well, I don't want to bother them. And even though we would be devastated if a friend didn't come to us when they thought we could help. So being able to allow people to step in and help us so that we're not getting overwhelmed And even if that's 10 minutes so you can have quiet to yourself. Like you've been around people or kids all day, you just need 20 minutes. Is there someone, do you have a toolbox of people that you say, okay, my neighbor, she agreed, we did a trade-off. She'll watch my kids for 20 minutes while I can just take a walk. And I use those resources. And so what I'm speaking to is coping skills. And coping skills is another strategy that will help with burnout, whether in an academic setting or your occupational setting, or just your life responsibilities. Because coping skills help us prepare and deal with life's overwhelming moments. It's how we cope and deal with stress. It's how we make sense of the world and the stressors and manage. And we know that certain coping styles are more impactful than others. All coping isn't healthy, and all coping skills are not going to fit everything. So about all coping skills not being healthy. So at the beginning of the pandemic, as I stated before, I am an extrovert. I love being around people. I also love going out to eat. I love food. If I could afford it, I would eat out every single meal of the day. And I'm a talker. So I know all the baristas at the coffee shops. I know the waitresses. I am that person. And that was my coping skill. If I had a bad week, I would go to my favorite restaurant and just, enjoy and people watch. And then COVID came and said, hey, I'm snatching all of your coping skills. And I was like, uh-oh. So I can't see my friends. I can't go out to eat. So what am I going to do? So I discovered Target.com, Amazon, and Sephora. And it was amazing. I felt awesome. Every week, it was Friday, treat yourself. Who's having us? And I swear I felt like everyone had a sale at the beginning of the pandemic. And I would get a little treat, every week or so, go out, oh, what's in the mailbox? There's something. And I would not even know what was in the box. It was some excitement. It was great. Then at the end of the month, I'm doing my budget. And I'm like, who's hacked into my account? Someone has stolen a chunk of my money. And then I realized, oh, it was me. This coping skill is not good. Yes, it made me feel good in the moment. It was great. I felt amazing. I got rid of stress, but it caused problems later down the road. And that's the thing about a coping skill. A coping skill should not lead to other problems. So I had to figure out a better way to cope with the stressors, one that did not cause me to have serious deficits in my budget. So again, having coping skills for different types of stress is important. So think about your stress in mild, moderate, and severe. What do you do in mild states of stress, right? That may not work on moderate, may not work in severe, and vice versa. So it's good I call it like your toolkit. Like, what's your toolkit? And having things that you can go to as well, like really quickly. So music is a big one for me. It's pretty easy. It's easily accessible. All you need is your phone and some headphones. So I have a playlist. It's called my In Case of Emergency playlist. And when I'm in a bad mood or something is just like mildly annoying me, I put on my playlist. If I'm in moderate states of stress, I may go walk, do some type of exercise, get my body moving. I may journal, may pray about it. And if it's severe, I'm calling my therapist because I realize like, okay, I've tried everything. Those things aren't working. So let me step it up. So again, having a nice toolkit of coping skills is important so you can know which one to use. And certain emotions require different responses, and that's fine. So again, just reminding you of that. And again, I cannot drive home enough the value of listening to your body so that you'll know if you're approaching that level of burnout. Another thing too that I think contributes to us piling our schedule on is what do we attach to our worth? So for many of us, we have been reinforced by our achievements in one way or another. So we have maybe inadvertently attached our worth to productivity, which can be very dangerous because in a situation like, a pandemic or where you're not feeling well, when your productivity levels drop, then your self-worth drops. And that also can lead to those negative feelings that we have when we're burned out Because when you're burned out, your productivity level drops. So now you're beating yourself up for not being as productive and not being as motivated, which then makes you feel worse. And it's like this really negative cycle. So part of what you can do to combat that is grace. I think grace is one of the most wonderful gifts you can give to yourself. Grace and self-compassion, giving yourself permission to not be your best all of the time. I taught this year for the first, well, I've been teaching for a while, but this is the first time I taught during a pandemic because I've never lived through a pandemic. And I told my students on the first day of class to manage their expectations of me. Matter of fact, you might want to lower them a little bit because the 2020 version of Dr. Scott is new. I've never seen this version. So I'm not really sure what to expect, but I guarantee you, I will give you my best and I will do my best. And saying, I'm going to give you that. You all have never been college students during the pandemic. So 2019 is not the student you're going to be in 2020. And giving yourself permission to not be the best at all times. I think that can lessen some of the stress you put on yourself because you're not attaching your worth to levels of productivity. You're worthy because you're a human being, you're a good person. Doesn't matter if you produce to the top, 1%, or you're in the bottom 60%. So detach worth, your self-worth from things is another way to manage burnout, or at the very least to not get to burnout. Because sometimes we are overcommitting ourselves because we think that we need to be the hardest worker, the best at all times, and it's taking a toll on us. And this is huge in the academic setting as well as the workplace. Because we do live in a culture of toxic productivity where often sometimes those things have been rewarded, right? The person who stays late all the time, the person who works on weekends, a person who works 60 hours a week, and it's like, yeah, but what's their quality of life like? So we see only one side of it, but we don't know what their relationships are like. So remembering, going back to that work-life harmony, what are the other things that you value besides work or productivity or class? I think it's important to find a hobby if you have lost that side of yourself, which can happen a lot when you have a lot of responsibilities. That's usually the first thing we let go of are those fun things when it's like, that's what you need to hold on to. So give yourself permission to act like a kid some days. Just do something just for fun that has no value, you just enjoy, whether it's riding a bike, painting, maybe knitting, but get those hobbies. Just make sure you're incorporating fun into your life. So again, that self-care piece, take care of yourself, recognizing the warning signs, and you do that by having some type of regular check-in. How are you doing today? Or at the end of the week, maybe that's easier for you just to do it once a week, but just make sure you're checking in regularly, asking for help, engaging in those regular self-care, not being afraid to tell people no. If that's a struggle for you, you can use can I get back to you? And that's another way of setting a boundary as well. And that's most of what I had. So I wanted to open up to see if you all had any questions, comments, or thoughts about burnout.
I'm literally texting a friend right now saying, you should be on this. She's speaking language, and she asked if there was going to be a recording. So it is being recorded, I believe.
Awesome.
I think also I have to deal with guilt. If I'm not doing something I think I should have done or should be doing.
Yeah. So a trick I like to use whenever I hear should, I always change it to would like to. Like I should vacuum my living room. It's been a week. I should vacuum. I would like to vacuum my living room. And it's one word change, but it took away like that pressure. It's giving me room to, okay, I'll get it done. And it's okay if I don't get it done today. And with guilt around productivity, I think it's important to realize that we've been taught some very unhealthy behaviors around productivity. So that guilt is not always coming from a healthy place, because that's different things, different generations. But I think what we are now seeing is the cost of that type of productivity. Yes, you may get the awards and the accolades at work, but you're exhausted when you get home, or you're not spending time with the people you care about. So it's okay to have the guilt, but one of my favorite sayings is your feelings are not facts. Just because you feel guilty doesn't mean you are. And it's being able to separate the feeling from who you are. One of my best examples of your feelings are not facts is some years ago, I went to see Beyonce and Jay-Z in concert. It's my first time seeing Beyonce live. And I was like, oh, she's probably one of the best entertainers of our time. And I was like, I could do this. I used to dance in high school and junior high. I think I could do this. I'm inspired. I just need her choreographer to see me in the stands. I know the routines. I will quit my job at USC and I will travel the world. I'll even be an understudy. I will do this. And I felt it. I felt it in my heart. Then I remembered that I ran out of breath walking to my seat in the stadium. So my feelings were telling me one thing, but reality told a totally different, and both were valid. I still could honor that childhood dream of dancing on stage. I just honor it in my living room now. So it's okay to, when you have those feelings of guilt, but just know you don't have to lean into it. You say, okay, I'm feeling a little guilty, but I know that's coming from these crazy messages we were told about you always need to work and you rest when you're done. It's like, we know that's not really healthy anymore.
Don't let the dishes stack up in the sink.
Listen, I tell my clients all the time, are those dishes worth your peace of mind? Leave them. If it's gonna cost, just leave them and get, especially my moms. I work a lot with a lot of moms, and that's a thing we have to work on. It's okay because someone told us, right? You're not a good adult and you're supposed to do this, and it's like, but I have to sacrifice the 10 minutes I may have of peace, so balance.
Yeah.
As I look at the dishes in my sink. I will get to as soon as you're done.
I feel like different professions have different expectations. So I work in public health, and we are all about self-care and taking time for yourself. And my best friend that I was mentioning, she's an attorney, and totally different mindset. It's totally different. Like we work in two completely different worlds, really.
Absolutely.
So I think it really also depends on what you do for a living. Yes, I have burnout and I get stressed too, but I know that I have a cushion of folks that understand that. When you don't do that, it almost exacerbates what's already going on.
Yeah, and that goes back to that dysfunctional work setting that contributes to burnout. And it's funny, I had a feeling you're going to see attorneys, because attorneys and doctors have some of the worst rates when it comes to mental health. They have some of the highest rates of suicide, alcoholism, substance use. And I think it's exactly because of what you just shared. And I work a lot with our law school at USC on just health and wellness and trying to plant these seeds early, but also understand that part of it is it's a toxic culture. Now, thankfully, the American Bar Association, they are starting to take note of that, and they are trying to make some changes in that culture, but it's going to take a while. But I think they are realizing that what we have been doing for years, it is causing more harm than good, because they're seeing the cost of pushing people, because people are not robots. You can't work 80 hours a week, 60 hours a week, every single week, and weekends. And like at some point, that car is going to break down, or it's going to resort to things that may not be healthy, or the healthiest to keep it going. So for those who may be in settings that are not as cushy, or you get those cushions, that's where those boundaries come into place. And I think not just boundaries, but your values. So you have to remember what do you value. So I learned early in my career that I will not work myself into the ground for a job. I was doing that. And something happened where inevitably I made a mistake because I was running on E, and the way that someone in that job treated that one mistake let me know, like, oh, you're expendable. Like, no matter how much you give to a profession, if something happens to you, God forbid, your position will be reposted in 14 days. So my value is not, I prioritize my quality of work. My value is the work I give to people, but I have to prioritize my health and well-being. Now, that may mean I may sacrifice a little bit of salary somewhere because I'm not, in a corporate position, but I think of the trade-off. So I think for those who are in very hectic, high-paced settings, how long can you sustain? Because sometimes we've all been in situations where we just had to push through because we were trying to get to another goal. How long can you sustain? What are you doing to supplement and to make sure that you're at some point you do slow down? And how will you know when it's time to walk away? That's the important piece too, because sometimes we don't realize how it's like, when you're cooking crab, like the reason they don't hop out is because they don't realize the temperature is getting hotter and hotter. So for us, we need to ask ourselves, well, how will I know it's time for me to move on? Because what I'm doing is not aligned with the things that I value. I think but yeah, it's a great point.
I want to tell you something really funny that really kind of ties in with this. Saturday, I walked out and I live in a townhome and there's a pond behind my fence. And I walked out there because I felt like I need to clean up the patio a little bit.
Yeah.
We'd had wind and had to brush it off. And all of a sudden I heard geese flying in. And I pulled my chair up to the fence so I can look over and watch the geese on the pond. And I spent 1 hour watching them. There was a mother and a father and 2 teenagers. And the teenagers were learning how to swim and how to build up steam and take off in the air and then hold out their feet and skid on the water. It was hilarious. And that was so much fun. It was such an energetic and relief, it was different. It was cool.
That is so good. That's such a cool way to, I'm glad, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you gave yourself that time to just be an observer of the world around you.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do anything. You just watched. Well, because how many things we miss because we're always doing something and moving. And you got to see a really cool, family of geese learn, teach and learn. And had you just been stuck on, I need to clean up, I need to go do this, you would have missed that. So that's so cool that you got that. You gave yourself that. That's good.
To boot, you gave yourself permission to enjoy it too, because I can imagine, like, if that had been me and I had like all this to-do list. One, I may have seen it. I probably wouldn't have stayed for the whole time. And then I would have felt like I shouldn't have done it. I should have been doing these other things. So then you didn't even get the benefit of it. So that's really telling how I have poor coping skills. But I'm going to be working on it. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, April, because this is very educational.
Yes, awareness is key. So if you know that you're the type that like you go, schedule your self-care, because oftentimes, like if you're like me, free time doesn't remain free very long. And I'm a recovering person. I'm doing better, but particularly when I was in school, especially my doctoral program, I was queen of guilt around wasting time. I felt every free moment I had because I was working full time and in a doctoral program. So I felt you have to earn rest. You need to earn fun. You need to earn downtime. Not healthy. So what I had to do was to schedule downtime on my calendar and even have an accountability partner, someone who called and say, okay, put the computer down, let's go take a walk. Or did you do your thing that you said you were going to do? So put it on your calendar so that it's there. A new thing I had to realize, because I was really bad about it, is free time does not mean available time. So because I'm so used to having a full schedule, it was very hard for me to not, particularly when I finished, I would have dreams or actually nightmares that I was forgetting something. I was like, Auburn University is going to come knock on my door in South Carolina and say, hey, April, you forgot to turn in the paper, or you forgot to sign here. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this downtime? And I had to, just become comfortable being still, being unproductive, and not feel the need to fill up my time. And part of that, and this pandemic has helped also a lot, which is being okay with being still. I mean, I didn't want it, but I was able to get that. So yeah, Helen, I think scheduling it, it's, give yourself some grace. You don't have to do it every day, like baby steps, but schedule that down time of nothingness. So you should give yourself 30 minutes, if you can, 30 minutes a day where you're doing something that has no goal. Just doing it. I love coloring. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm not really good at it, but I enjoy it.
Hey, who needs to color good? We're not in kindergarten anymore. we're not getting graded on our coloring anymore.
Yeah, art is not my ministry. Anything, art, sewing. I remember I was telling a friend I got kicked out of the sewing class at Vacation Bible School when I was a kid. They sent me downstairs with the boys because I could not get the pillowcase right. They was like, "Go with the boys. Go make a tie-dye shirt." You are just. Clearly, I've gotten over it because that was 30 years ago.
I have
There's
got
so much that goes into that story that I could talk about, but we're gonna stay focused on
So
the
much
issue.
to unpack, right? Why are
There
we
was so much to
separating?
unpack.
I have got back into doing crossword puzzles.
Ooh,
And
that's good.
that occupies your mind, but you don't feel like you're overworking yourself,
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I used to love the word search.
Yeah.
Crossword puzzles were hard for me, but I love the good seek and find. That's
Me
good.
too.
I actually this weekend, I read a book, like an actual physical book in a day, which is something I have not done in years. I've always been an avid reader. But grad school kind of ruined a little bit my love of reading because so much of my reading was clinical and technical reading. And I was doing audiobooks a lot. And particularly with the pandemic, and I think a lot of it had to do with just pandemic fatigue, it was very hard for me to focus. Just exhaustion. And so I had to train myself to just sit, because when you read, you can't do anything else. You can't go on your phone, you can't cook, you can't watch TV, you have to focus on the book. So for the first time in months, I finished a book in one day. And I was like, oh my God, I got it. I didn't lose it all completely. But reading is a great way to escape. Someone said running, absolutely. I envy people who run for fun. I am the worst. You do not want to hear my inner dialogue when I'm running. It's not. But that's a good one. You get those endorphins going. Again, just moving your body is such an important thing. That is something I will say that you should try to incorporate. Taking a walk, getting outside. We need that vitamin D, which is we get from the sun. Because when those vitamin D deficiencies, when we have them, it does affect our mood. And not saying like going outside is going to cure depression or anything, but it does, that movement will help. It helps boost your mood. So moving your body, whether it's you do a 20-minute dance party in your living room, you take a walk, you get on the bike, those are super important skills or strategies. Any other questions, thoughts? Maybe something you've learned. Okay, so the teacher in me, I always like to ask, what's one takeaway that you can take from our discussion?
I think it's not feeling guilty to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And if you feel the guilt, you don't have to engage with it. Pretend you can see it in the corner, but you don't have to go ask it to dance. Just acknowledge that it's there and let it pass through.
Mhm.
Self-care is not selfish. I've heard people that it's I don't have time for that. That seems too selfish, and I don't think that way, but
yeah. Self-care is self-preservation. It's how we survive. Yeah. Any other takeaways or things you may remember from our discussion?
I think for me, I I kind of came in late, so I missed pieces of it, but
Yeah.
I think the thing I'm walking away from, I mean, I was gonna say the grace thing like Leela, but she already took it. But I also was like, it is something that most everybody experiences. Like, yeah, some people might experience mental health conditions throughout their lifetime, and that's certainly, statistically there. But
Right.
burnout can like happen at any time with anybody, you know what I mean? And it acts so similar to, I mean, the 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 burden on the body is just, it can be just as burdensome, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
And I think that's
Absolutely.
probably the thing I got the most, was like how, how prevalent it is, I guess.
Yeah. What I spoke about at the beginning is recognized by the World Health Organization.
Right.
So it's a thing that affects everybody. So regardless whether you have a mental health condition or not, if you do have existing mental health conditions, particularly chronic ones, that burnout then adds to that. So all the more reason why it's important to manage your stressors wherever you can, have those coping skills, have that support system, put those boundaries in place. Because when we think about the symptoms of burnout, they mimic things like depression and anxiety. So that tense, that feeling like pressure or despondent. You don't want to do anything. You're just like, stuff you once enjoyed. You're just like, I don't care anymore. So yeah.
And I also think it's important to recognize those triggers
Yes.
that start that feeling of anxiety.
Yes. Yes. That is super important. So I always say, listen, your body talks to you. Your body tells you what it needs in various ways. And I always say it starts with a taps you on your shoulder. Then when you don't listen, it gives you a little nudge. Then it just knocks you down. So we want to listen when it's tapping or nudging, and try not to let it like knock us down, because sometimes it knocks us down with the flu or a depressive episode or a panic attack. So how do we learn to listen to what our body is telling us? And in order to listen, we got to slow down. You got to give yourself time, to hear what your body. So whether that's prayer, meditation, journaling, unplugging for a little bit. So I'm curious, and this will be my last thing because we're close to time. When is the last time you were unplugged? You just sat in silence for at least 5 minutes. No phone, no TV. There was nothing, just 5 minutes of quiet time.
It's been a while for me.
Yeah.
I'm Constance. I was late getting in there. I go by Cece.
Hey,
Mine
Cece.
was yesterday, and it felt wonderful.
Good.
I was, it was several hours had passed, and I didn't have no radio on, no TV. My phone was in the other room. I left it. I didn't even go check my alarms.
Yeah.
It was really wonderful.
That is awesome. Because you don't realize how much you need it until you do it. Particularly, and I know for some people we may struggle with complete silence. So with that, go out into nature. If you like coffee, so this is a really cool grounding technique. Is or anything with grounding is use your senses. So if you like sound or the sounds of nature, can you go out? Do you have a patio or a park nearby where you can just sit and try to notice all the sounds around you, or all the new flowers and plants that are blooming? So engage your vision. Or the scents. I don't know how your allergies are. I can't do that because that, but maybe there's a candle or a coffee. So one of my my morning routines, if I get to work on time, is I love coffee, and I have a French press. So I'm serious. Like I have a grinder in my office at work. So I come in with my beans. I put my beans in my grinder. I boil some water, use a tea kettle, and then I have to pour it over. And it takes time. And what it does, it forces me to ease into my day. So I'm not running in and checking email and getting on the phone. It forces me to just kind of slowly get into it. It's usually quiet. I can smell the beans. And just really, and something simple again that you can do. So that's something that you can kind of slowly incorporate into moments of stillness and to unplug. Leave the phone in another room for 10 minutes. Try that. If you have other people in your life, let them know this is your do not disturb time. And when the timer goes off, sure, free reign. But give yourself the gift of silence and stillness. So maybe silence is too much, but at least being still for a little bit.
Oh, and the saying no part, getting permission to say no. That was a good part of this little session too. Yeah.
Yes, no is a complete sentence. You don't have to give people an explanation behind your no. And again, a solid and a balanced and a healthy relationship should not end because you say no. And if it does, that tells you something. That's feedback. So you should be able to tell people no, and y'all still have a great time the next time you get together. They should, if that changes the nature of your relationship, that means your relationship was predicated on you always being available. And that's not a good sign.
Not a healthy
Not healthy.
relationship. Way to be in relationship with people.
No, not at all. Yeah. Yes. Well, awesome. Well, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. Okay. All right, Candy had to head out. Well, thank you, everyone. It's about 5 till, so you get 5 minutes of your day back. If you're on Instagram, I'm on Instagram at Dr. April Scott. Also at Facebook, Dr. April Scott, all one word. If you want to connect with me in those areas, but this has been great. Do something fun or maybe tonight. Make some tea. Watch your favorite show. Go watch some puppy videos on YouTube. Something to uplift your day.
Thank you, April.
Thank you. And I'm going to I might do my dishes tonight. I'm going to give myself the grace of maybe.
You're gonna, it's on your list, but it's not a should. You don't have to should it or could it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna miss it.
Exactly.
Take care to everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.